Been more than 20 years ago since it happened. Happened right here. Well, everyone around the world was affected by it, as we all know today. But no one was affected by it more than those it happened to. Folks around here saw it coming. Said they could feel it in their knees, just like the old timers who used to have arthritis in their joints when a bad storm was coming. Feel it in my knees, they'd say. Meaning the rain was coming. Something worse than rain coming that day. They'd felt it for a week or two in advance, not just on that day, but leading up until then. More another day it finally happened. Like I said, folks around here where it happened, they knew that day was going to be the day it would happen. The ominous feeling that felt like a pain in their knees, like a rain was coming, took on a whole new form altogether in that it was affecting the joints in the whole body. But it was more than just that. It was more than just feeling like it was coming. They knew when they first looked outside, whether they got up right at dawn or a little bit later after the sun had risen, because the atmosphere, they say, had a blue hue to it. Everything was light blue. Almost like, well, a little bit later in this time of year when the pine pollen comes into the air and everything turns yellow. Looks like chalk dust. It's like that, but it was blue. As if it was blue pollen, blue pine pollen. But no such thing. I know they still haven't been able to figure out what that is. Found the residue of it and everything. And, well, I guess it made for some pretty good tabloid headlines and some pretty outrageous and fantastic assumptions. A lot of talk about entities from another world. Talk about the multiverse, entities coming in and out of portals. One thing's for sure, though, and even the science agreed with this, along with the tabloid conspiracy nutcases. Whatever that substance was, it was not known to be of this world. A lot of folks didn't even go to work that day. Looking out, I can't say I'd blame them. I wasn't here at the time. I wasn't anywhere near here. I was overseas. Of course, I heard of it. I mean, who didn't? We all heard of it by the end of the day. Even though I was in some pretty remote locations back then, I still knew about it. I mean, unless you were living under a rock, there's no way folks alive today wasn't even born yet back then could tell you about it. They're learning about it in grade school. So I'd say if it was me and if I'd have been around here back then, the day it happened, I looked out and I saw what looked like blue powder in the air everywhere, you wouldn't have caught me going to work. Nah, not that I have to have some sort of majorly serious reason to call in sick. I mean, back then, at least when I used to work and had to call in sick, I just take a day off now. If I don't want to do nothing, I just don't. Benefit of retirement. But I'd say them old boys and them old gals sitting around retired back then when it happened probably wish they was working somewhere at the time and somewhere far away from here. They say a lot of folks passed away that day just from the shock. Their hearts couldn't take it. I mean, you can always write that off to just irony or coincidence, but ain't a whole lot of folks living out here. It's pretty rural, and to have that many people pass on in one day, you can't say that the events that took place that day wasn't part of the cause. 20 years later, my, how it's changed us all. A lot of folks happy it happened because their lives changed for the better. I guess I could see that. Of course, the official narrative as it was turned out to be, why, I guess that allowed them to go on and believe in certain things that once upon a time they'd have been called crazy for believing in. But, well, I mean, the narrative was based upon facts that couldn't be disputed. Even today, 20 years later, our technology's advanced unimaginably further, and they still can't go back and disprove what it was they proved shortly after it took place. Well, a lot of folks weren't better off because of it. A lot of folks worse off because of it. It just changed some people some ways for the worse they just never could get over. Could it have been prevented is something that those folks ask. But for the folks whose lives are better because it happened, well, I don't think they'd have wanted it to have been prevented, and they probably would have gotten in the way if you'd have tried. But the big question, the one I find myself asking, even though I wasn't anywhere near here at the time it happened, and I kind of feel like maybe my life's not been affected for the better or the worse because of it, but I still ask because I think it's only human to do so. And that's, is it going to happen again? Well, a lot of folks hoping it is. A lot of folks praying to the God of their choosing and understanding it never does. Me, well, I think we need to honor the memory, whether we celebrate it or whether we vilify the moment. I guess that's a personal choice. I won't say nothing for or against it. I'm pretty neutral. Hard to believe it happened right here.